So you'll hear me talk a lot, a lot about connection, the intellect, mind, mind versus body, mind versus emotion, thinking versus feeling, because it's just these nuances of how people interact with their worlds and with other people is so fascinating, and we're so different. And I just keep coming back to the place that, like, I really truly believe that people are expecting or seeking a nirvana where everybody thinks and feels the same way, and I just don't see it happening. The only way I'd see it happening is going to be through control, through a predominant group trying to control another group, because you can't make people alike. And even with people that I like and appreciate and respect their points of view, sometimes the way they go about communicating those points of view turns me off. And then it turns me off to the point of view. When in fact, I need to remove my emotional reaction in order to be present to conversations, especially or in particular when people's points of view are like disturbing to me. Right? And there's things about points of view like far left, far right that are truly disturbing to me. I don't have specific problems with either point of view or either side of any kind of issue, social, political, racial, societal. I really don't. It's when they get extreme or fanatical that I get uncomfortable. And what happens is that I see these extremities, these far reaching spaces, and they're often fueled by really unhealthy emotion, where you try to have conversations and people go to the place of getting emotional sooner rather than later. And that doesn't necessarily serve the communication. Right. And so, because my way of communicating, I am fiery and I am passionate, but I'm also neutral in terms of like my reaction or responses to certain points of view, because I don't want to get myself worked up before I have all the information. And I don't want to get myself so worked up and emotionally attached to my point of view that I can't hear the other person, right? Like, I need to be able to sit and listen to people who have alternate points of view, because it's not either this or that, right? You know, like, for example, I have strong feelings about marijuana, but I have very pro feelings in some sense that surprise people, and anti feelings in other senses, as far as like either smoking or utilizing it, or as being prescribed or as being legal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I won't get into my feelings or opinions about any of those things, but they're a mix, right? I'm not all about like it's this way, no, 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 or all about it's this way, yes, 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 to every aspect, right? I need to understand the bigger picture and then the little nuances if I'm to truly understand how to make progress, right? And I think that, you know, oftentimes people say, because, oh, you overthink things. It's like, I do think a lot, and I love that about myself. And oftentimes the problem that people have with my overthinking, it almost seems like a burden. And in some cases they're right? Because I tend to be heavily cerebral, heavily intellectual. I solve my problems through pragmatism, through parsing things out, through organizing and understanding at an intellectual level. However, there is a time where my brain will prevent me from like accessing the emotion because I'm in over analysis. And the truth is that the solution is really just to feel, right? So that's been my burden, or cross to bear, if you want to call it that, my way of being able to grow and progress and understand myself and other people better, is like, how do I get myself to just get to the emotion? And I do that through other people. You know, I have a large amount of opportunities in my life where I have to sit and listen to people be emotional. And I don't have to say anything, and I don't have to respond, and I don't have to give advice, and I don't have to offer suggestions. And it's been really, really helpful for me to listen to other people and how they emote, and not to listen so much with my ears or my brain or even with my heart, but listen with my body. Because it's almost like when people get like overly emotional in a place or in a space or about a thing that just doesn't resonate with me, I become disconnected, as opposed to like when someone really just breaks. And it usually happens for me with like tough guys. When tough guys break, I'm like, oh my God, that's so sad. Oh my God, I'm going to cry my heart out, you know, because it's really hard to watch anybody suffer. But it's particularly difficult to watch someone suffer who absolutely does everything not to suffer. Right. And we're all going to suffer, and we're all going to cry. And I know some of the toughest people that cry like babies. And that's just the way it is. I mean, our emotions are so nuanced, and they're like the ocean. They're almost like completely it's almost impossible for me to fully understand mine or anybody's emotions. But I will say this: there is times when people get too too emotional about things that I think they could be more pragmatic. And then there's times, as a pragmatic person, I could afford to be more emotional. But it is all about the communication, and it is about the connection, and it is about my willingness to continue to have conversations, right? But I actually don't want to have conversations. It's very difficult, and more difficult for me to try and have conversations with people who go straight to like an emotional point of view and then start like interrupting and interjecting because of course they know they're right, but there's no room for right or wrong in some of these conversations. We just have to keep talking because we have to find balance or connection, and it's not necessarily going to be found in the nuances of our systems, whether those are political systems, social mores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here you go. That's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts, I should say, grammatically correctly speaking, on emotional connection. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me.